but Ray is really kind of like the best teacher that there is. And this is a history lesson, but not the way history lesson, is generally conventionally perceived as. It's not like serious artistic, I don't know, arty something. It's because that's a perception. I mean, that's again a perception problem. But just while revisiting Shatranj yesterday, it struck me how much of Hangama Kyun Hai Barpa is a tribute to Shatranj as well. It wouldn't have been as much fun if Sholay hadn't happened before this.
Right,
The fact
right,
that Sholay has happened, the fact that he is Gabbar Singh
Yes.
makes this what it is. But in the bullet scraping the shirt, it's like nothing happens to him really, but still so much happens. I was just astounded by Amjad Khan's sort of face and the use of lighting in that scene. It's so melancholy. It just, and I think that's the mood Ray wants us sort of to feel.
Hello everyone, welcome to Film Copan. In this week's video podcast, we bring to you another Ray classic in celebration of the Ray centenary year. Ray's only full-length feature film in Hindi, Shatranj Ke Khiladi, aka The Chess Prince, released in the year 1977. The film was written and directed by Satyajit Ray, based on Mulshi Premchand's short story of the same name. The movie is set in 1856 on the eve of the Indian Rebellion of 1857. The film narrates the story of the annexation of the Indian state of Awadh, and the story of the daily lives of two wealthy men who are devoted to chess is presented against the background of the annexation. Shatranj Ke Khiladi was nominated for the Golden Bear in 1978. To discuss this amazing film, we have an amazing guest, Shankhanan Ghosh, or whom we better know as Zico Ghosh, is here today with us to discuss this Ray classic. Zico is a writer at Film Companion. He used to write for Hindustan Times on movies and music for the Mint Lounge. We are big fans of Zico's reviews and his movies analysis and of the articles he writes. Zico, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, man. It's a really like Shatranj Ke Khiladi is such a it's not talked about enough. I feel
we haven't seen a lot of videos also on the analysis of Shatranj Ke Khiladi. So it's actually you suggested it, and we are really thankful that you suggested it to us. So that
I watched the film, I think 3 months ago. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I revisited it for this session, and I was I think I was just struck by how fun it is, and
yes.
and I think this is a reminder. The movie is a reminder that Ray is fun. It's not like serious artistic, I don't know, arty something. It's because that's a perception. I mean, that's again a perception problem, but I think Shatranj is a great example. It's just fun. I mean, it's also a lot of other things, but I think that was my first kind of takeaway from it. Yeah.
Right. To start with, I'd like to ask you, is that amongst the rich filmography of Ray, actually, and you have Shatranj Ke Khiladi, which is the only Hindi full feature-length film, according to you, where do you place it among his other films? And how successful was he in adopting different languages, Hindi, Awadhi, and English, in the film?
Where do I place it in his filmography? I mean, it's like Ray attempting a historical, right? I mean, that's like the only kind of period. I mean, Jalsha Ghar is not a historical. It's a slightly different space. So I think him trying that genre, historical period film, where so that is, I think, a first and the only one. And his use of, so that's also, we see Ray, because Ray famously was comfortable working in his playground, right? Working in Bengal because of his connection to the basics and the fundamentals of the culture. And so this is the only time, apart from Sadgati, of course, where we see him outside that comfort zone. And so obviously he has collaborators like I think Shama Zaidi and right? Am I getting the names right? Yeah. And so who's Shyam Benegal's, I think, co-writer for a lot of his films. Right. And Shyam Benegal again he's a history buff. So and this is like to me, we are all big Ray fans, and I mean, I've always, and off late, I mean, again, revisiting his works because of 100 years and everything, and I keep getting that feeling that Ray is really like, um I don't know whether I'm veering away from your question, but Ray is really kind of like the best teacher that there is. And that's an element you see in Feluda as well. And this is a history lesson, but not the way history lesson is generally conventionally perceived as. It's a very oblique view of this very like big turning point in history where the British is taking over Awadh, and through the story of these two men who just want to play chess while the world burns, and that's so. I mean, Ray knows how to sort of teach you something without coming across as preachy or lectury, and making it fun and accessible and amazing. And so this is again that. I mean, that's a thing in all his films. Like, you come out with trivia, you come out with knowing something, learning something, education in that sense, but again, you know done in such an entertaining and moving and that sort of a way, artistic.
So me and Arup were discussing the last day about when we talk about Satyajit Ray film, this Bengaliness of his comes out in his movies a lot. Like,
Right.
although it's a very, very universal story, but it comes from a Bengali perspective, from a Bengali point of view. It is totally different when we look at Shatranj Ke Khiladi, and it comes from a very like those Lucknow lanes and those mahals, and he totally adopts it in a way which is very different from his other films. So, how do you feel about that? That the way he brought that out in the movie.
So Ray, I think I was reading, and it just happened to be so. Like, I just a friend had gifted me this calendar, which is, I think, a special edition calendar for this year, which is 100 years of Ray thing, and it has some tidbits and posters of his films. Every month has a different, and I just realized I haven't changed a whole month. I mean, that's how blank I am about time and zone and everything, which I think we're all kind of going through. So and while flipping, I came across the Shatranj Ke Khiladi month. I forget which that was, and there's a quote by Ray where he said that he kind of looks at Shatranj in the same zone as Jalshaghar, in the way they're also kind of rumination of this kind of uh, sort of uh, sort of old world decadence, right? This kind of decadence that Jalshaghar also had. So Ray has a soft corner for that. Ray has, I mean, of course, he's a man of fine taste, but Ray loves these things. He loves the beauty of a culture. He will appreciate that beauty of the culture, and that's a trait you see in all of Ray. Like, you see in Feluda, and and a lot of things. And being Bengalis, you guys will know it. So this is Ray as put by Ray himself, and then you look at it, and it absolutely makes sense. It is a companion piece to Jalshaghar in the way it is also a kind of a celebration of that way of life that is lost now, that is going away, that is fading. So it's a kind of a bittersweet, melancholy look at that. And it's that Awadhi decadence, that kind of thing that is celebrated in. I think that is the core of the movie. What do you guys feel about that?
Right, Arup, if I come to you, what is your thought about it?
Yeah, I mean, first thing is, the Bengaliness you were talking about. I was amazed actually, because that's something also which is my takeaway from most of Ray's film. Like, I relate to the characters as much as I relate to someone around me, or my relatives, or my family, or like that. And when I saw such Shatranj Ke Khiladi, I was amazed to realize how a man through research and through perseverance can adapt to anywhere. This universality in locality, that he kind of he moved on from one place to other and brought the same essence. I mean, say for the set designs, amazing, the way the set, the production unit has been worked, the costumes. So it was amazing the way those detailing were done. And I think, the politics of the whole film also, I was just thinking, and maybe we'll come to that later. It posed so many existential questions for me, which I might have missed last time, but this time when I saw, and maybe, the lockdown, the world we are living in today, kind of, I found a very unique reflection in what I was seeing in Shatranj Ka Khiladi this time. So yeah, so maybe we'll come to that.
Yeah,
politics.
you're right. Yeah, we will come to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So actually, if you look at the original story by Premchand, it focused more on the chess players. The other characters are mentioned in the passing. In general, in the movie, however, the other storyline of the British Raj and the annexation of the Awadh and Nawab and all that musicals is also given up really equal importance, if not more. So, why do you think they did that? And how much did it work for you? If I may come to Zico first.
So I haven't read the original the original story, but I guess when a filmmaker is taking up a short story, he has to make these alterations to suit the medium, right? And I guess the idea of you cannot just have two men like literally talking through the entire film. It's not that. It's about, right? So, and very curiously, we will come to Abhishek Chaube's segment in Ray, which does a similar thing. We are going to come to that, but again, it's a very accidentally timely talk because just while revisiting Shatranj yesterday, it struck me how much of Hangama Kyun Hai Barpa is a tribute to Shatranj as well. But just coming to your point about why Ray did that, why he made it just not about these two guys talking and playing chess, is simply because it's going to be difficult to do that cinematically, because it's going to be monotonous and so on. So you'll have to build and go. That's right? You're saying that the main story was just about kind of focusing about this. I have not read it, so I don't want to get it wrong. But I guess you'll have to assume that Ray did it because he has to make cinema. A feature film that also had stars, right? It's not so it's also Ray's most expensive film, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And he had to work with stars and everything. So you're going to make a big, like a fairly big Hindi film, and it's a special event, like Ray making a Hindi film finally, and all that. So these are things I think that he did, and he was a master in book to screen translation. We have seen that what he did with Shunar Killa, where he did not, he didn't keep the revelation of who did the crime thing till the end, because he doesn't believe those expositions work very well in film. So we see Dr. Hajra right at the beginning, and we know he's the bad guy and so on, right? So he's a master in that, and from what it sounds like the book was, he did the same with this one. He made it also about a lot of other things.
Right.
There is so much outdoor, and there's so much this thing going on in this film.
So I will get to you. I will ask you about the Hangama Haku Barpa connection. It's very interesting you put it, because now you can imagine those two people in the train compartment sitting next to each other and how it works out. But before that, let's talk a little bit about the casting of Shatranj Ke Khiladi.
Very interesting.
And specifically, Audup, Zico, anybody can take it. First, let's talk about Amjad Khan. Let's talk about Amjad Khan being casted as the
genius cast. Classic anti-casting, right? Classic anti-casting. Like you have the guy who's in Gabbar Singh, and
then this one,
and then this is just amazing. This is how you break. You deconstruct a star and an image and do something with it. And it also has to do with the screen history of the actor and how people perceive it. Things that Tarantino is greatly bothered with. And, since we were talking about Tarantino before this discussion began, and it's, I think, one of the most fun parts for me as a film goer, when I see filmmakers playing with that perception of an actor, screen history of an actor, and to have Gabbar Singh, Amjad Khan play, this Nawab, who's this aesthete and who dresses as they put it, as I think Richard Attenborough's
Lord
character.
Krishna. He was a
He dresses like a Hindu god, right? Like that's how they put it. And he's a composer of operas, and he's this slightly effeminate or whatever. He thinks he's slightly effeminate, but he's a rasik. He's one of the last of the kind, and it's beautiful. Just having Amjad Khan sort of do that, and the close-ups Ray takes of him, and which we are going to come to, I guess, at some point. It's a genius anti-casting, in my opinion.
I really cannot believe after Sholay, Amjad Khan doing that role, and that only gives this understanding. A good director who has this vision looks into the actor devoid of that mannerisms and a particular role. I mean, must be that when he watched Sholay, he kind of understood that this person is not only this role. There's much more this person is potent at and can do. I mean, think about that Sholay, the scenes, the mannerisms that we celebrate. And you were just mentioning about the close-ups. That one scene where Amjad Khan looks first at Richard Attenborough and then at Tom Alder when they're telling, you will have to finally move. That look, I mean, I can watch that film as many times as read it, 10 times in a row for that look. That's unbelievable. And that, Ray got this performance from him, and then he understood that this person can give this performance. Makes the director Satyajit Ray is.
Absolutely.
Right.
It wouldn't have been as much fun if Sholay hadn't happened before this.
Right,
the fact
right,
that Sholay has happened, the fact that he is Gabbar Singh, makes this what it is.
Absolutely.
Just that's all.
Coming to the chess players like Sanjeev Kumar and Syed Zafri. Sanjeev Kumar probably one of the most underrated actors in Indian cinema. Would you agree, Zico?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wished I had I've had more authority about cinema of that era, but yeah, I mean.
So, what do you feel about his performance? How do you rate that?
I was wondering if it's like too commercial for Ray or something at some point, and then I see that Sanjeev Kumar talking in a very Sanjeev Kumar way in one scene where he's doing those mannerisms, right? And it's a very almost unflattering close-up of him. I mean, and then I think Ray is also a fan of stars. He loves those things. He can use them intelligently, and that's what he does here as well. He taps into the uniqueness of Sanjeev Kumar. He taps into the uniqueness of Syed Jafri. And it's such a wonderful sort of, again, Jugalbandi, as we will again come to Hangama Kyun Hai Barpa, where people have been using. So these are two men riffing off each other. It's just a delight to watch. And their casting is Syed Jafri is right up his alley, right? He was a very left of the center actor working in international projects, so on. So Syed Jafri is here. Sanjeev Kumar, I believe Sanjeev Kumar was cast because he brings a certain commercial viability with him. He's a big name, so I think Sanjeev Kumar was the biggest star, and I mean Ray was like, that's as far as I can go, to cast a star, But he did get Bachchan to do the voiceover. Yeah.
I think Sanjeev Kumar's, his sense of humor, his comic timing is excellent. Be Pati Patni or Wo or Angur and all. And as you started,
He was Thakur in Sholay.
Yes. So as you started, that the fun element, that subtle sense of humor that Sanjeev Kumar brings in is maybe, the choice that Satyajit Ray had for him. I remember this one particular scene where Syed Zafri says that his wife loves chess, and that look in Sanjeev Kumar's face when he knows that his wife does not love it at all, detests it like anything.
She's just
And now he is learning from Syed Zafri that his wife supposedly loves. It's a different thing altogether. And so subtly the face he makes, brilliant.
Yeah. And I think that subtle face thing, that's why Ray uses those close-ups to kind of get to that.
Yes. And
Zico, Arup, continue.
just while we are talking about the fun element, I just wanted to mention this one, that I have seen a lot of movies where we have this sequence that the lover is hiding inside the wife's room, and the husband has come in. But this one in Shatranj Ke Khiladi, the fun this one has, this exceeds everything else. With Farooq Sheikh half hidden and looking at Syed Zafri, that was an unbelievable sequence, I think.
It's a great sequence.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and Farooq Sheikh, that one sequence, that one couple of scenes, he's so good. So is Farida Jalal, so is Shabana.
Shabana and
Yes.
Even the servant, when Shabana asks,
Yes.
when they're playing with Sabzi, right?
Yeah.
That man is like, "Pata nahi kya hai shatranj mein jo log aise hi hai." And he just passes, and so every character, even it's just
It is, yeah.
so well cast.
Zico, if you could talk about, now I've come to you for the references in Hangama Hai Kyun Barpa, which you find as a tribute to Ray's Shatranj Ke Khiladi. If you could talk about that now.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was just revisiting the film for Shatranj for this session, and it struck me, and I was like, oh shit, why did it not strike me before? Because I wrote a piece on Ray, and I was like, I should have dwelled on that like a little more and everything. But I mean, you could just completely, it's out there. I mean, now the moment you say it, you can see it. Abhishek has done a very, I mean, not so obvious kind of a way, but again, it's obvious. If you say it, it's obvious. But again, it's not, because I've not seen anyone talking about it. But it's a tribute because he is beautifully translating that story, but to his kind of, it's also Abhishek Chaube's home ground, like in a sense. But by doing that, he's also making you think of Shatranj on some level, I believe, because I mean, his whole thing is anthology is a tribute to Ray also, right? So I thought it's just wonderful, and it's again two men talking and kind of in a duel, kind of playing games, psychological games here in a way. Of course, the culture itself and the beauty of it. I think that's just there. It's at a very superficial level because they're different films, but I thought it's just a very not so obvious kind of a tribute that he's. What do you guys think? Did you guys?
Yeah, I mean, now that you mentioned, it really makes sense. The other thing is, we were talking about adaptations just now. That Hangama Kyun Hai Barpa story actually brings in the essence of that short story. The kind of fun that at the end race stories are, and exactly the Premchand essence. The politics or the contemplation of what human beings are doing while the world is changing around is the essence that Shatranj Ke Khiladi the film brings in. So that perfect adaptation thing
You're
also
right.
connects maybe the two films.
Absolutely. It's also playful and mischievous, right? And
Yes.
that quality is also in Shatranj, and absolutely.
Yeah.
And these two men kind of almost in a, I don't know, their relationship is transcending friendship. It's in an undefined zone almost. Like there are places in Hangama Kyun Hai Barpa where you're like, fuck man, they're like a couple almost. I mean, it's just, you get that feeling, and they're nice together. That sort of thing. And that kind of bonding over things of enjoyment, things of fun, things of very refined taste. I think that those common things that bind these two films, and I mean, I really like Hangama even more now when I think about it. This extra added layer to it with Shatranj.
Same for us, I think. This discussion really added the value to that film as well.
And it's so, because we hadn't decided on Shatranj, by the way. I mean, just telling this to the audience that we didn't. I mean, it was decided a month ago or something, and we had no idea how Hangama Kyun Hai Barpa would turn out. And it's just an accidentally timely thing that happens so that they have similarities. Right?
Now that you say that, now I'm thinking about the casting of Hangama Kyun Hai Barpa and how those characters were thought about. with all that royalty
Casting.
coming through it. Yes.
Yeah. The casting also, no? Gajraj
Yes.
Rao, Manoj Bajpayee,
Yes.
alternate kind of actors, who are
Great cameos in both of them. You have so
great
many
cameos.
overlaps.
True.
Right. Okay, Arup, you were talking about that while watching Shatranj Ke Khiladi, you had some existential questions
Oh,
coming
yeah.
up. If you could come to that now.
You know what I felt, and I don't know, Zico, you tell me if you have ever felt this way. What I was seeing is, there are two men playing chess, which is kind of, a war or a fight in a friendly way, queens and kings, while a fight with the kings and queens is going on around. And these men have nothing to think about what's happening. They have, no interest. They are only involved in their own game. And what happens in the family, what happens in the politics of their state, they're not bothered about it. While I was watching this film, I was kind of feeling, the way we watch cinema, and I was feeling, that I am watching cinema, and what I will end up in watching in cinema maybe in another 2 years is happening around me. Am I paying enough attention to that, or am I actually watching cinema and waiting for that to come to cinema to me in 2 years or not? A bit complicated maybe, but that kind of a feeling I got while I was watching Shatranj a couple of days back. And
I think we all relate to it. I mean, this thing that you just said.
You makes sense to you what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I think we are, as cinema lovers, we are also indulged into watching cinema as those players are indulged into playing chess. And probably our reality is something else now, because we are also living in the past kind of, and we are not paying enough attention to it. So is it also not some sort of a
It's actually works at multiple levels. No, you were saying something, Arup.
Yeah, what triggered that one for me is, in the last sequence, Syed Jafri says that, I'm not bothered about all that. I'm just thinking, where will we play chess now that the English has taken over. And I was thinking, at times, whenever all these political turmoils, these and that go on, I do not know if it's misplaced or not. I at times think, with all these changes, will I get to watch good cinema, or will it be all these rules and, guidelines blocking cinema for me, where I think maybe bigger things are at stake. But in my position of privilege, my passion comes to me as a question first. So am I being the chess players in some way? That was the question it kind of got me into.
No, you very interesting. These jumping off points, absolutely. I think one is the bit that about how we movie people are sometimes like we feel like we are a little insular, right? We are cut off from what's happening. That's what you mean, right? When you say that
Yes.
we are kind of like, even when the lockdown and even when the second wave was happening and all that, like it's and sometimes you think that, I mean, I go through it a lot of the times, that I'm so cut off from what's happening in socio-politically around the world, that I'm just like lost in my world of movies and everything.
Yeah. We are.
And this, I think another thing is that it's, now that you say it, is that I think Ray had been accused of being a little insular also.
Yes.
He was accused of being not political enough and all that, which he kind of addressed when he made Pratidwandi, which was like a much more politically charged film than he had made earlier. I think this one has a weirdly kind of a commentary on that, in a sense, where these two men are kind of having fun and playing games, and there is and Ray kind of is like siding with them. He has a soft corner for it, and he, as we all know, he never made anything that was didactic. It was always entertaining. It was always beautiful first, and then I mean, he was such a master that he wove them together. But I mean, this is also kind of in some weird way, it's also about that.
I mean, this one is, I felt like there are so many films which are meta on the makers. This felt meta on the audience.
No, but that's the genius, right? I mean, Ray made such simple films, in the sense that they are so simplified in form. Like he distills and sort of crystallizes them. They're not like incoherent. Ray's films are never that, because he finds a minimalistic kind of design to it, which is easy to kind of follow and everything. And so once that happens, once things are not spelled out, once things are there's a lot of elbow room for the creative audience to imagine and interpret their own ways. And I think Ray's all films are like that. And Shatranj even more so because of, I mean, it's just so allegorical, the whole design of it, the story itself, the setup. You can read it in multiple ways. And
right. And
so, yeah.
this very fact that a film made 45 years back, it is raising questions in me today. That's what the great film is, right? I mean, I'm not sure if my question is right or wrong, misplaced or not, but it is raising. It is making me think.
But that's absolutely valid. I mean, you don't have to worry about if the filmmaker intended it or not.
Yeah, that's what. I mean, as we keep on saying, it's a good film's intention should be to raise the questions and not necessarily answer them.
Yeah. Totally.
Zico, you since you brought out that criticism of Ray about not making political films or being insular, so there is another criticism of Shatranj Ke Khiladi as well. So there is a school of thought that Satyajit Ray was not critical enough about the British Raj in the movie. Some feel that he kind of overall showed them in a better light as well. So what do you think about that?
That's just the most stupidest thing there's no most stupidest, but stupidest, but thing I've heard. Like, I mean, those scenes were with, I mean, I thought it was pretty, I mean, again, Ray does not make films that preach, so, I mean, he doesn't need to make those kind of statements. I mean, it's very clear, I mean, that whose side Ray is on. I mean, he, of course, also takes a very droll kind of a tone, a comic kind of a sort of tone in the film. See, I mean, I would like to bring the scene between Tom Alter and Richard Attenborough in that scene where, right, it's such a great scene. And Tom Alter, again, I think we should talk about Tom Alter as well, because again, this is a movie about these two cultures which are so almost on the opposite ends of a spectrum, like the Awadhi way, the Lucknowi way, and the British is just so different. And that is the scene where I think the difference is just marvelously, like Tom Alter is this wonderful, this very rare sort of specimen of a person who got integrated in that culture despite being a British. And he himself is like that. If you know Tom Alter's history as a person, he was a great lover of Shairi and poetry and Urdu and that culture. And again, great casting. And Tom Alter sort of trying to it's a very humorous scene. Firstly, it's so funny. And when he's like, can you translate some of his, and he says things like, yeah, I quite like them, sir. Yeah. And then he goes on to sort of says a poem and he tries to translate it. And he's so good. He's on point about, but so here's someone who is an example of that kind of integration happening. But we see how that is for the Richard Attenborough character. And he's just not getting it. It's not for him. Yeah. And the gulf between two cultures, I mean, is also visible in that scene, as well as Tom Alter's character being like an example of someone who's sort of has a taste for that and has integrated into that thing. I mean, in every fucking scene with like the British, like Outram, and they are pretty much coming. I mean, obviously Ray won't portray them as a cardboard kind of figures, but there's also kind of a parodying going on there, and it's very clear whose his sympathies lie with. And I think just by virtue of that, he's saying that these British guys are, I mean, I feel so angry about the British that they did this. So that itself says a lot. And you don't. I mean, they came and destroyed something beautiful.
Correct.
I mean, that's the stance Ray took, I think, here. I mean, they crushed something that was beautiful, that was delicate, that was just something so unique that as a part of our culture. And yeah.
Right. Right.
And I think the timing, the time the film belongs to, the British were still more shrewd and cunning than cruel at that time. That came a bit later, maybe, and that cunningness was what exactly the film was showing. They were finding the loopholes into the treaty and how do they get hold of him and do not disturb, the supposedly righteous policies they are supposed to maintain and all of that. So that thing was very much there.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
And Ray, I think one thing anyone cannot accuse him of is historical inaccuracy. Like he does not get that wrong. He is so solid about that. So so you're right. The British probably, they were still kind of it was still the East India Company. It was not the Raj yet, right?
Yes.
So they hadn't really shown their true colors in terms of how ruthless they can be. Right. So I think you're right about that.
If I remember correctly, I think this was it's dated in 1856, and during that time only there was this doctrine of inheritance which was introduced by Lord Dalhousie, I think, historically, where if through which they actually annexed a lot of states who didn't have natural born inheritors from the king. The adopted sons were not allowed, and although then eventually culminating into the 1857 revolt. So this is based in 1856. So I think the company was still in stealth mode actually. The way
and they do it very it makes sense.
Right.
And also, Shubhadeep, think about the film's release as well. When Satyajit, in real the film is coming, it's coming, I think, if I'm not wrong, 1 year after the Indira Gandhi emergency.
Yeah.
So that way, in our, in our politics of our times, also it has a very significant role to play.
Yeah, I think a lot of people read it like that. This one and Hirak Rajat Deshe, I think two Ray films were read in the context of emergency.
Zico, before we wrap this section up on Ray, I would like to know from you. You were talking about the facial expression of Amjad Khan. You wanted to, and specifically about that monologue scene when he is like angry on himself and angry on his ministers, and eventually the last scene where he gives his the head crown to the British Raj or the East India Company. So,
I mean, two scenes. I think it's the same scene, right? Where I think one is the extreme close-up of where he's just so sad, like he's so sad, and the light on his face is different, and it keeps changing, and the light falls, like it becomes darker and it's much brighter, when it started, that scene. And then I just thought that just such an effective way of conveying the mood. And I was just astounded by Amjad Khan's sort of face and the use of lighting in that scene. It's so melancholy. It just, and I think that's the mood Ray wants us sort of to feel. And the scene where two ministers, right? Whatever, I think one is the Victor Banerjee character and the other one, I think they just help me out a bit here, but they say something and he just starts singing.
Yes.
Yes.
And it just breaks you. It's like, fuck, man. I mean, that's it. That's Ray. He starts singing. He sings this sad kind of song, and it just, and the ministers are so moved. They don't know what to do. And
it's like that man belongs to that world. In the biggest crisis, also he goes back to his arts for shelter.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we probably seeing the last of that kind. That is over. And I think Ray wants to leave you with that sadness, that melancholy, that bitter sweetness, and it's just so effective. And I mean, I thought I will just sort of go through the film in parts, which I did mostly, but last night. But some of them I just couldn't stop watching because they just so cinematically powerful.
It's very difficult.
It's so difficult. And then there is the scene in the end where I thought I should sort of mention that, but when the English are finally kind of coming in, and when these two men are playing, where the boy has gone to get kebab paratha, right, or something like that, and then and then the altercation happened, the exchange, right? And then he kind of mistakenly almost kind of shoots, and uh, the bullet scrapes past his shirt, right? And it leaves that thing, and the camera zooms into that sort of damage that it does to the fiber. And I just thought that juxtaposed with the British coming in, I mean, it's kind of abstract. But in the bullet scraping the shirt, it's like nothing happens to him really, but still so much happens.
Yeah.
And that finding a visual idea. Ray keeps talking about cinema being its own medium, and film artists should try to find. I don't think that bullet scraping and that zooming into that image and juxtaposing it with the army coming in. I don't think that was in the book. That's a cinema thing.
Exactly.
That a film artist like Ray does. And it's just kind of abstract, but it just kind of just leaves you with that kind of feeling. I mean, this is visual. You don't need words. You just needs ideas that are visual to sort of
Right.
say that.
That is so beautifully put, Zico. What a way to end this section of the conversation.
I mean, I found that scene hilarious where where they've gone to the Hakim's house and they're waiting, and they see the chessboard kept in. You remember the scene, right?
Yeah.
And they start playing like very like like they're like, okay, no one's seeing us, whatever. It's not appropriate probably to play chess when like Hakim might die, and Hakim dying itself is like an ironic thing going on.
Yes.
And then this man comes to serve them sharbat, and he takes away the chessboard. And they're like, we don't want the sharbat. We want, but it's such a fucking, I think that. So Ray's sense of humor. Let's end it with that, because I think Ray's sense of humor. I think, as you guys being Bengalis also, I think that is something that I think Bengalis will get more out of Ray than people who have seen all Ray films will still not, because I think something of that gets lost in translation, like in Feluda, in some other films, because he had this very peculiar brand of humor, which runs deep in his family. It's Sukumar Rai, Upendra Kishore, and I think that's such a specific kind of humor that he has, and I think I think you see some of that here, and so yeah, I mean, let's end that.
Even the way they leave the place once the Hakim dies, they just
they don't care. All they want to do is fucking play chess and endless games of chess. That's all.
Right. Okay, that was awesome. I think it was really an enlightening discussion, Zico. Thank you so much for bringing so many references.
Thanks for having me.
And we would love.
I mean,
to
I literally do it for a living, so yeah.
So yeah, we would love to have you again, and it has been such a great session. We enjoyed a lot, really. Thank you so much, Zico.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.